Bye.
Hi everybody, welcome to all of the amazing cheers from across queer organisations from universities across South Africa. Welcome to all of our viewers. It's very exciting that you could join us today. We are a bunch of different chairs from a bunch of different organisations. So I'm going to ask everyone who's involved to just quickly introduce themselves. So my name is Tessa. I am actually Zimbabwean, fun fact. I am chair of Spectrum, which is the queer organisation on Tygerberg campus, which is the medical campus of Stellenbosch. And I go by she and her, and maybe they and them, depending. But yeah, and I identify as pansexual.
Okay, I guess I'll go up next. My name is Amu. I am the chairperson of RAINBOWUCT, the LGBTQIA+ society at the University of Cape Town. Pronouns are she, her, yeah. And I identify as bisexual, but kind of in the process of negotiating if whether I'm bisexual or pansexual. So very much in limbo right now.
I guess I'll go next. My name is Michaela. I am chairperson of Up and Out, which is the LGBTQIA+ organization of the University of Pretoria. I am blonde moment. I am a natural blonde. The red is fake, although my friends will argue that it is not. But yeah, so my pronouns are she, her, or they, them. I don't really mind, but she, her, normally. And then I identify as bisexual, but also like I'm sort of like questioning whether I'm bi or pan and all of that. I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to label each other and label ourselves to like find a place that I think sometimes we lose like who we are in the process, but yeah.
Alrighty, I'm Disa Zogudu. I'm the chair for Activated Bits, which is the queer society that caters for all the different campuses in Joburg. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm also still in questioning, trying to proper find myself, but yeah, I'm part of the spectrum.
I'm Shante. My pronouns are they, them. I'm the chairperson of Queer Us, which is the LGBTQIA+ organisation at Stellenbosch main campus. And I guess I mostly use queer because labels are different.
Okay, so I think that's everyone. Thanks for sharing. So for our listeners, for our viewers, the point of this conversation is to kind of give a bit of a view of the chairs behind societies that you're part of, or maybe you're interested, or maybe you've heard about. And the point is, I mean, even just in our introductions, you see that we're human. We are so human. I mean, so many of us have questions either about, like, I mean, for me, my pronouns, for other people, maybe they're different labels. Some people are like, no labels, you know? So we have some questions from you guys that we will definitely get onto. But before we get onto the great meat of the discussion, fun fact, I'm a vegetarian, so maybe I should say the lentils of the discussion. I just wanted to give a shout out.
Wow.
Yeah, see, look at this intersectionality. Guys, environmentalism is queerism. Okay, so I wanted to give a shout out to Tyler Phillips. Tyler Phillips is running an incredible research project with the Department of Psychology at UCT. So he is basically, well, this person, they, good lesson in pronouns, they're running this amazing research project, basically exploring the meaning of queer identification through narratives, discourses, and interactions. And there's this amazing opportunity to participate. It involves talking about your experience of being queer, and it's more in an interview format, so there's no kind of old-fashioned structure being imposed on this. So if anyone's interested, give us a shout out. You'll probably see all of this content on the RAINBOWUCT page or shared through your chairs. Okay, all right, so moving on, we have a bunch of questions. I think we all wanted to discuss what we're doing. Does someone want to share what this Pride collab actually is and what we've been doing for the last month?
Well, basically what this collaboration is a bunch of queer organizations at different universities coming together to really create content that would entertain and really keep up this feeling of community and solidarity during a time when we can't be together, where we can't, go out in the streets and celebrate Pride in all the normal ways that we could before, because of the immense risk that poses, to our health. And so this past month, we've been doing really incredible things. I think something that I've enjoyed the most has been the Queer Art Showcase, where people have just been submitting the most incredible poetry and visual art, and it's just to see the talent and what people are able to create, because I can't draw for shit. I am not, my creativity is incredibly limited. So when I can see what other people do, I'm just in awe.
Okay, that's amazing. So there's really a lot of different kind of ways that we've been coming together. Michaela, do you want to jump on that?
Yeah, I think it's been really awesome to collaborate with everyone to just sort of show our pride in a period of time that is just sort of, it's going to go down in history. The fact, like, Corona and everything and the chaos in the world at the moment it's kind of overwhelming. And at this point of time, like, to be able to be there for our community, to share our pride in ourselves and our community and our people, and is really important and I think really special. I almost said, like, the Queer Art Showcase, to like showcase queer voices, that is so important and so inspiring. We have had the Pride Flag Challenge, which has basically been like a way where we can go, hey, like, you on your like little day house or like other societies at our own institutions, we're able to go, hey, like show some support, show some solidarity, like pass it on, like share it. And I think that's really special to be able to just come together in a way. I mean, we've got the block party and like we've had the radio interview. I think it's to be able to, I always get poked up, to be able to share this moment together in sort of this community that is separated, to find this shared togetherness, I think is beautiful in a way.
True,
Yeah.
very true. Cool.
Like, I think it's been really great for us to connect as like organizations as well. I mean, we're all in the same country and we're still like in very different places, so our experiences are so different. I think we can really all benefit from like the support of being connected and having each other as contacts for whatever we might need. I think that is also going to be like really helpful and great moving forward for like our executive teams, for members, for queer people at our universities. I think it might be really great.
I think I enjoyed what UP did with helping with the queer history and the infographics. I like that poster that we made, and I think it's so important that we acknowledge our history, because knowledge is in history. We cannot go forward with finding new ways of being present and cementing ourselves if we don't work on previous knowledge. So I think it's important that we read more and make people know more about queer history and culture. It's important for the future.
Yeah, definitely.
On that note, I mean, is there something new that anyone has learned during this Pride collaboration? Either it's a life lesson or it's a little tidbit of information that you actually didn't know before the Pride collaboration. For me personally, I think the life lesson in terms of the amazing expression in the Queer Art Showcase, and it was interesting to note that at first, most of the posts were more kind of feminine energy, I found, and then people started to get more and more engaged. And it's interesting, I think that there's a lot more like a channel for feminine art, whereas I feel like we need to open up that space for something that's a little bit more broad.
Yeah, I think you have a big point there. Art is often and has long been sort of, even though the like historical greats of art, maybe not the act, like has largely been a male pursuit. In our current sort of societal climate, there isn't much of a space for mask presenting people to, and like people who identify as men or closer to on the spectrum of gender to a more masculine sort of side of the spectrum, there isn't much of a space for them to, in societal spaces, to feel like they can express who they are, like, in a sense. It's sort of like how, like, if you look at like the dichotomy between in bisexual women are fetishized and bisexual men are called, like, it's disgusting, but bisexual, like, it's there are differences in the way everything is presented. For me, when we did the queer history post, I learned a lot about South Africa's queer history. I had no idea that originally in 2006 the Civil Unions Act was like, hey, we'll give you like all the perks of marriage, but not actually, it's not actually called a marriage because all of that will anger the religious leaders too much. It was like, hey, here it is, but not really. And then only in 2016, 2017, sorry, I'm really bad with dates, was like actual queer marriage added to that act. So then it was both, which I found interesting and perplexing at the same time. But yeah.
I mean, something, I wouldn't exactly say something like that I've learned, but it's definitely been something that's become like a lot clearer and definitely been like emphasized for me. And it has been the importance of kind of building a queer, like, African archive. And, you know, I definitely think that so much, I don't want to say this like to be shady or like I don't mean anything like harmful by it, but I think so much of what we understand to be queer culture or, you know, the LGBTQIA plus like fight for our rights has definitely been very like westernized. That, you know, all of the things that we kind of hold up as queer, like, you know, when we talk about like Drag Race and like all of these things, they're really like westernized symbols. And so doing this collaboration for me, it was like, especially, you know, the queer art show, it really kind of like hit home to me. You know, we need to, like, our experiences aren't going to be copy paste because, you know, our circumstances, our geopolitical contexts aren't the same. And so, especially with, you know, that Pride history infographic, I also learned so much. And I said, you know, and I was just thinking, you know, this needs to be common knowledge for our community. And there's so much to be proud of here. Let's, you know, focus on this and let's use this as, you know, a building ground, like as, you know, the foundation to take our fight further in a way that is really specific to our needs and our context and what's going to yield the most revolutionary results for us here right now.
Yeah, I think like the thing that I valued a lot is kind of on that as well. Just not that I learned, but just that I noticed that people are really, really valuing the fact that they're getting queer content from their context. You know, that it's people around them that are making art and sharing art, and they're getting history from like our own country. And I saw so many people like on my personal Instagram reposting that posts on the queer history from like whichever organization they were associated with. And it was like amazing to see how people are enjoying it and interacting and reposting and just taking this little bit that we're giving them and loving it so much that it's not just rethinking other people's history, like whatever we can latch on to, that like it feels more like our own.
Yeah, no, just on Amu's point about queerness in Africa, like an African queer archive. You can't look at like our community and our histories as people who live on the African continent and not look at the effects of colonialism and like the missionaries who came here. You can't look at our history in that context and not accept that it's something that has been completely westernized. And if you do, you're like losing a vital part of our history that affects us in a way that a lot of us don't even notice today. Yeah,
I also agree with Amu. At WITS, I think I'm in 5 years. I'm the first Black and gay chair. It has been the position has been predominantly occupied by white females, let me say, and this year was kind of tough because we had to now shift it to be a society that is inclusive for everyone and is relatable for everyone. So in the collaboration, there's something that I learned about different experiences across South Africa that were helpful in developing some of the strategies that help me get to know and interact with our followers better. It's been such great help.
That's so fascinating that you say that, because so we in Thai context is completely different. So the bulk of our community is actually more people of color, and I think it's interesting that in our context there's a lot of cultural holding back. When you look at like white Tygerberg students, a lot of them come from backgrounds that are very kind of conservative or very strongly religious and holding back. And our community, especially our executive committees, the entire time that I've been on Tygerberg campus and dating back just a little bit, it's actually been mainly gay men of color that have been in the executive committee. And last year I was the only white person on the committee, and actually still this year as well. And I'm the first kind of female or women presenting, femme presenting chair actually for a while. Although one of the original chair who started it, I mean, as far as I understand, she's also she's white and she's a woman. So it's interesting that we have completely different contexts. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, but I also wanted to respond to this whole concept of, I think it's such an interesting concept of, recreating our own narrative that is local to us, and I think it would be so amazing actually to see how, if this could happen, like this sort of model of reaching out within a country could happen in other countries, like across Africa. I mean, because that whole concept of the hallmarks of queer culture, I mean, when you think about Call Me By Your Name, that's a completely European film. Whereas why don't people reference Rafiki? It's this new, it is relatively new. So I mean, we know that it hasn't been available for the longest time, but there is amazing stuff out there that is African centered, and it's focused on that. And when I first became involved in Spectrum, it was a laughing matter that I had no idea who Destiny's Child was. I wasn't a Beyonce fan. I didn't have connection to the Western world.
I have to love this one. I am so sorry. As the ultimate Beyonce fan.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
I mean, I listened to Destiny's Child and Beyonce growing up, obviously, but I was never into the massive fandom that surrounds them. But yeah, we stand a queen, and I think for us at what you were saying to Rafiki and Call Me By Your Name, which is a completely European and westernized film. Whereas Rafiki references African culture, and I have not seen the movie. Don't come for me.
Same. I've only read about it.
Yeah. But we're at up and out. We were trying to plan a Netflix party movie night, because we would do movie nights in person, but we can't do that. So a Netflix party movie night for our society and our people. And it was really interesting to go through the queer movie suggestions on Netflix, and then notice the fact that 90% of them were about white people. There weren't really any movies about queer people of color that were suggested to us from our community on our Instagram. There aren't and that representation is getting better but still lacking, and I think that it is a place in the especially I suppose it's inherent of the movie industry, and the fact that the movie industry is based in Hollywood, which is America, and
so far away from our country. crazy.
Yeah, like so far away from our context and like our like frame of reference in terms of demographics and people and culture, and I think there is a huge outcry for more films in the African context about queerness.
But even then, I mean, I think it's really important that we also find a way that we don't, I mean, I think it would be amazing if we can rally and like, you know, we say, okay, you know, we make it an African thing. But I also think that, I mean, like, for example, Rafiki is specifically Kenyan. So as a Zimbabwean living in South Africa, watching it, I was like, okay, cool. I feel like I can resonate more with Rafiki than something like Call Me By Your Name or La Belle Saison, which is a French lesbian film. But like, it's still Kenya. I've never been to Kenya, and you know, it's still separate to us. So we need to try and make sure that we also don't end up like perpetuating other issues while we're trying to fight for this cause. Does that make sense? But I'm going to do a quick little shout out to Holla. So that's Hot Loving Action in Africa. Holla Africa is a Joburg-based kind of information resource hub started by 2 queer African women, and it's got some amazing stuff. So they really are trying to get that going. So I just noticed that we have probably about 10 more minutes on this first part of our discussion. So we just wanted to talk more about the whole Pride Month. Does anyone else, I mean, if on any of the points we've been discussing, if anyone wants to add, or we can talk more about, you know, what's coming up. Michaela, you mentioned the block party for our viewers, for our listeners. What is that? What else do we have coming? I guess. Yeah.
The block party is not my brainchild. It is not my baby. As far as I understand it, and I can be corrected, it is a sort of, you know, we normally celebrate Pride by going out and marching and like dancing together after Pride and after parties. You know, there is always there is a sense of joy and movement when it comes to Pride that we can't really have at the moment. So the block party was an idea. There is music and we've got a DJ, and if I'm correct, we have some drag queens confirmed for a performance, and we all get to feed in. I'm not sure the exact platform that we're using, and watch and dance and celebrate and all be in our homes together and celebrate Pride in a way that is safe and also joyful, where we get to like a small taste of the Pride parties that we're used to, or not used to if this is your first Pride.
True. For anyone who is interested, that is happening next week, Friday. The information will definitely be coming online to a social media source near you. Okay, anybody else got anything to add? I mean, we have made some amazing educational posts. Like you said, there's the queer history stuff, there's the queer art showcase. So if this is a shout out now to all of the beautiful mass people of our community, please, we need your energy. Otherwise it's just, you know, it's just going to be single. Like, we need to have a good, like that chocolate that has the dark chocolate, then the milk chocolate and the white chocolate. You know, we can't just have plain milk out here. We are fancy, so we need all of it. You said for your back, okay. Did you have anything?
My connection is, I'm sorry for that. Yeah. Pretoria.
Amen. Yeah. Did you want to add anything on what we were discussing? I think we missed that part with you.
What were you guys on about? I'm sorry about that.
We were just talking
about
no stress at all. So we were talking about the kind of how we want more art, we want more queer stuff that we can resonate with on like a more local level. But we were also discussing how, I mean, the closest thing we have, I mean, you know, we have Rafiki. I know there was the Kosa movie that was produced a little while ago, so that's like a little bit closer. But we want stuff
yeah. So I think, in Joburg, we have this AFTA. Are you guys familiar with AFTA?
Yeah.
It's a film academy. Yeah. So AFTA is not a conventional varsity or university, and they do not have a queer society, but they have a lot of queer learners, right, who produce amazing films, amazing stories, and amazing art. So we really believe that after students should be given a chance because they produce Afrocentric art, which is also queer at the same time, right? And I think it would be beneficial for us if we get to know more about them and acquaint ourselves with them, because they produce art which is relevant to today's struggles as being African and queer. So I think that's something we need to give them a spotlight, to produce queer films and queer art, which is relative to us in Africa, South Africa particularly.
That's really amazing to hear. I didn't actually know that AFTA was a thing. You guys have nice local advantages. Okay, so that is this portion of the talk. Yeah, go ahead, Michaela.
I think AFTA is not just a Joburg thing. It also has a school in Cape Town, and one in Port Elizabeth, and I think possibly that I'm not sure.
Okay, I need to clearly go home and do some education. To be fair, the reason why I don't know about these things and I didn't know about Destiny's Child, I mean, when I was 15, it would still take about half an hour to load a 2-minute YouTube video. I mean, yeah, things were tough. So, coming back to our progress, we are closing down this little part where we were talking about our Pride program. We're going to take a little bit of a break, just to refresh our makeup. And then we're going to come back and we're going to discuss the questions from our society members. Okay, welcome back everybody. Thanks, cheers, for joining us for the second part of the show. To everybody who is watching or listening, thank you for your very short wait. Amu now has coffee, and we actually managed to solve our technological difficulties. And the way we're going to hit off this, like the start of this next part, is we wanted to just, hear from the chairs. There was a question in terms of how are you finding it supporting your, the queer members of your society long distance, and how are you finding this process during the pandemic?
My team and I found it quite difficult to connect with our members during the pandemic, because this is relatively new. We've never had to do everything actually online. And there were certain issues of intersectionality. We had connection problems. We felt like we were not reaching the greater audience, and we were basically connecting with the top 1%, let me say, people who have access to good things. Not only that, the content that we were producing, we couldn't get enough feedback to know whether we're doing good or bad, so we can better something or change. So personally, it's been quite difficult for Activate Vids, but we somehow finally managed a way to maneuver around it. I don't know about you guys.
I feel like we're still figuring it out. Like, I personally am definitely invested in trying to figure out how to support everyone, because I know that there's a lot of people who are struggling being at home, even more so than the normal day at university, needing their spaces. So that's definitely been a challenge. And like you said, even though the means we do have to communicate with people via the internet and social media and things like that is also very limited, and only a few people have access. And even on that, if you are in an unsafe environment, it's not that easy to just get on a chat and start to talk about all the issues you're feeling and queer things if you're in a home where you won't speak up about those types of things. So it's very, very challenging. And like I said, we do a safe space once a week, and people are missing that a lot. And I mean, I know I am as well, but posting it online hasn't been the same. It hasn't had the same access and those types of things. So it's definitely been difficult.
To speak on that, I think it's also been difficult reaching like all of our members, like Tsetso said, it comes with like connection issues come with a certain connectivity online can come with privilege, because not everyone has access to data and internet. I mean, a lot of the universities have rolled out data plans, but people need that for their classes. So it's not as, our reach isn't as broad as it was. We've definitely struggled with engagement right now. We also run a support group twice a week. And that's really helped, and a lot of our members who can connect, it's definitely helped me. Like, honestly, it's been a lifeline, because to connect with our community during this time is everything. But we've been trying to keep, like, we have a WhatsApp group, and we try to keep that active, like send queer memes and stuff. So if people are in like really toxic environments where they can't speak openly about who they are and how they feel. I know, like, I don't know about you guys, but if someone talks loudly in the passage, you can hear them. And if I talk loudly, like, they can hear me. So there isn't, in a lot of homes, there isn't that privacy that you get when you are away or living in res or in your own like commune. So I think that reaching our community and reaching and supporting them during a really difficult time when can be in toxic spaces can be really complicated.
What all the other chairs have said is really what Rainbow has been feeling. Like, we have been putting out a lot of online content in terms of like acronym series, because we're like, hey, at least, if we can have conversations, if, we can feel like we're all sitting in a room kikiing together, that, that will help, that will, help people feel connected. But we're all like in the forefront of our minds, like, is always the people that we're not connecting with, who are really, really struggling right now. But like Michaela said, the data that they're getting from the universities, that they need that for school. They need that to watch lecture videos and download readings and lecture slides. And so we're always just thinking about, those students who, just like everybody else, just really, really need this feeling of connection and community, but they're not getting it. And just honestly feeling so helpless, because we literally don't know, we have no other means of being with them and saying to them like, hey, we're here and we love you and we care about you and we know that you're going to get through this. We literally have no way. Like, I mean, we can like try astral project and like telepathically, share that message, but yeah, it really is weighing like really heavily on us.
The power of the queers is supporting you.
Yeah, no, it's very, very true. And I'd love to kind of talk more about the toxic environments that you guys know your community like is facing at home, because I mean, I know mental health is one of the biggest struggles in our queer community. Like our healthcare students, there just is a really high prevalence of mental health issues. And then when people go home, I mean, so many of those mental health issues start to like really come up at home when you've been away. So I mean, I know I have friends that really want to actually get involved with all the Pride stuff, but they can't because at home they're too anxious to be able to get involved. So I mean, apart from the practicalities of data and technology, there's also that whole reality of the vulnerability of the queer person. So yeah, what other toxic spaces have you guys heard of? And I don't want to have this like, if this is triggering, we stop and just shout. But I think it's important that we actually bring light to the situation that people face when they're at home, because a lot of people didn't even get the choice of whether or not to go home. Like, some people couldn't, and some people had to go home because they didn't have anywhere else to be.
I think not on specifically like going into details of a toxic space, but I know what was happening for a lot of us at Queer Us and at Stellenbosch was that Queer Us was really growing, and people were like finally finding queer community and finding queer spaces and safe spaces, and like opening up and finding themselves more like generally at university and like with Queer Us. And now they like all of a sudden had to, or like forced to go home and need to go home to spaces where they aren't even out at all, and where it might not be safe to come out at all. And meanwhile, like, we've been at Stellenbosch having a bit of a kiki, like being queer, being safe, having each other's support, and now people are going home where they need to like go back into the closet, among other things. And I mean, we have a WhatsApp group as well, and a lot of that's been spoken on there is just having like really toxic family members who are unapologetically homophobic, whether the people are out or not, but just having this environment where people are not welcoming, and the homophobia is out there, and they know that it's out there. They either stay in the closet or just feel so uncomfortable, and that's unfortunately not even the worst of the situation. So,
does anyone else want to speak on that?
I think anything out of any space where you're not comfortable enough to be yourself is toxic, right? And with our societies, we all offer that space of comfort and unity together. Now, once people leave that safe space, they can no longer be themselves, and that is detrimental to their mental health. So I think it is true to say that once they are out of the university sphere, they no longer feel free to be themselves, be it in their communities or just walking down in their homes. Because that element is removed, no one feels really at home, even at home.
Yeah, I can obviously, like, without betraying any of like my members' confidences and just like grievances, I don't think that's fair to them. There are people in really toxic spaces, and I can speak to like my own space. Like, I'm at home. I'm from the Eastern Cape, so I am on a farm, and I am out to my family. But there is this sense that, yeah, you're fine, but don't talk about it. And don't bring it up. And let's not like even note it, like let's brush over any sort of representation you're excited about. And so even though I'm a chairperson of Up and Out, and I'm really proud of the work we're doing at like where we are, and I'm not allowed to feel that and express that at home, or I don't often feel that I am allowed to. And so I think that there is a disconnect for some people, and there are different levels of toxicity. There is like serious homophobia where it's just slurs and violence, but there is also that subtle homophobia that like we're not sure about you, and yeah, we love you, but it's a
like the microaggressions that come up, and the whole kind of the totality of the environment, you know.
I think everyone experiences this differently, and toxicity is variable, and like any space, like Tsetso said, like any space where you cannot be you completely, any space where you cannot be unapologetically yourself, where you cannot walk into that room, that safe space, and just shed all the masks that we wear in public as queer people, is a space that affects you mentally. Any space where, and especially during lockdown, where you are stuck in those spaces, that's even exacerbated. So most people get to leave those spaces and come back to them and have to like go in and out of those spaces. In lockdown, you live in those spaces if you're in a toxic environment, even if everyone knows, even if you're out, there are spaces that are just not safe, and we're stuck in those for the foreseeable future. And I think that can be really damaging, and our heart really goes out to our members and our community for people who are going through that.
Yeah, I think we probably all echo that sentiment. And I mean, going back to that whole thing of, you know, there's so many people that we want to reach but we can't, and I mean, you know, we've heard like every single person that's on this chat has been like speaking with a lot of frustration in terms of like, it sounds like everybody's got plans that they want to achieve with the executive committee and they want to achieve with their society, but there are so many barriers in place. And I mean, you know, we're sitting here and we're having this long fat conversation that someone's going to have to use data for. So I mean, it's difficult that, you know, we want to be able to do stuff, but it's difficult to get the stuff out to the people who need it. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still have some resources available, you know. I wanted to ask in terms of, you know, like, has what is the environment like in everybody's communities? Because right now there's so much happening in the world. I mean, I've noticed that queers are like the first activists, like they're the first people to jump up when there is an issue, because I think queerness is this amazing intersectional community where you see how much intersectionality comes into play, because every queer person has a different story according to and so influenced by where they come from. So I mean, with the gender-based violence that has, you know, still been going on in South Africa and is coming into focus now again, and with Black Lives Matter, with all the racial injustice that is coming to light in the US, that, you know, has been swept under the carpet for so long. I mean, all of those issues, racial injustice, social injustice, and gender injustice, those all affect queer people as well. So I don't know, like, is the morale really down in everybody's community? I know there's a lot of hurt floating around in the spectrum group.
I will say that in my community, you know, speaking about Rainbow, there's this push where everyone wants to do as much as they can all the time. Everyone wants to share as many resources as they can. You know, there isn't a day that passes where I'm not like inundated with petition after petition after petition. And I gladly sit there and, you know, sign each and every one that comes my way, as many as I can get my hands on. And so there's this huge push to really do everything we can when we're confined to our homes. But in, I guess, like closer sounds like the wrong word to use, but I guess in my more immediate community, in the sense that I have a very close-knit group of friends of Black women, and some who are queer, some who are not. And there's just this deep exhaustion and anger and sadness and this tension of wanting to do everything we can and wanting to be on the front lines, but also sitting back on some days and being like, I can't handle this. I can't talk about Black people being killed anymore. I can't talk about women in South Africa being killed anymore. I can't talk about trans people being killed all over the world and then having those names and those stories completely erased by movements and mainstream media alike. There's just this thing of, I just can't talk about it anymore. Because when you look at those people, you see yourself, you know, you see your story and your experience. You know, you see, as a Black woman, when I see Black women being murdered, I really kind of have to sit back and have the realization that the only thing that made it her and not me was circumstance or luck, just pure luck. And so it's definitely just, you know, this has been a very long answer, but just wanting to do everything we can and pushing as hard as we can, but also trying to look after ourselves at the same time and not feeling bad about it.
I think that just like emphasizes what we were really speaking about, of like trying to support each other during like a pandemic, because I mean, we all know none of these issues are new, and most of us are not new at taking part in trying to do something about it. And like, I know if we just speak from like sometime last year, there was like the peak of like anti-GBV movement, and then, you know, it was exams, so we had a little bit of a break, and then at Stellenbosch there were so many homophobic incidents that, you know, the queer community was mobilizing again, and just after that we went into a lockdown, and now again like people are mobilizing. And I think it's incredibly difficult, and people are exhausted, people are hurt, people are scared, and I think what's even more difficult now is that we can't have those safe spaces the same way. We can't have the debriefing sessions the same way, and besides that, we also can't mobilize in the same way. Like, we're all sitting incredibly frustrated, and we're not able to mobilize in the same way. And it's as exhausting as it can be to do protest after protest, it makes us feel like there's something we can do, and all of that is missing now. We can't protest. I mean, they are starting to be planned again, obviously, in creative ways, protests are coming up, but like for the vast majority of the lockdown, we haven't been able to do anything. We haven't been able to support each other, and I think it's just making it even harder than it already is.
I think in my community, you know, there's this saying that goes around that queer people will show up for everyone, but no one will show up for queer people but themselves, right? So we kind of decided to use that stance, and my executive committee has been over the year coming up with strategies that shed light on queer-based violence. We talk about gender-based violence a lot, but really we do not dwell into queer-based violence because they also get to experience that, and only we can understand what we're going through. We can't expect someone who's straight to understand what we're going through. So we use gender-based violence and queer-based violence to understand and to stop perpetuating these violences from happening in our country, right? So we put more effort. I don't know if it's unfair or what, but we really do put more effort on queer-based violence than gender-based violence, but we also encompass it in trying to figure out how we can help, the little bit that we can do in education, on rape, on sexual abuse. You know, that's the best that we try to do.
To expand on what everyone said, we at Up and Out, there's like a similar saying, and it's more about the institution itself, but it's like it's safe to be queer at UP, but it's not to be safe to be queer in front of UP. So and what that means is that basically on campus we have a really extensive anti-discrimination policy that the university has put in place. We have built gender-neutral bathrooms. There is a lot of progress on campus, but when it comes to actions in front of campus, like walking to campus and from campus, and like the harassment that queer couples especially, and queer, like noticeably queer people face, there are like prominent like student hangouts that have queer people, like noticeably effeminate, like trans and gay men and lesbian couples have been thrown out of by the owner, kicked out because they were queer. No, we don't want you here. There have been like epithets yelled by dude bros to like queer couples. Can we join? Queer female couples, obviously, and like through the fence, like type thing. And that's like the sort of stuff you face. And with this, I say this and I got it online somewhere, but we're all experiencing a collective societal trauma at the moment with the pandemic, and then again with the brutal killings of people of color in South Africa and especially in America and all around the world, and the news and the video information. Like, to be fair, that's sort of like, there are people who were murdered, and there are videos of those murders on the internet. That is trauma. That is like, it's horrible. There are trans men who have been murdered, trans women who are murdered. Any sort of woman in South Africa is considered the most dangerous place to be a woman in the world. That is scary. And like, to what Amu said, like, it's exhausting. I said to friends of mine yesterday, like, if I actually, like, I've had to cut myself off from it. Like, I have had to say, I cannot ingest any more of this. I cannot process any of this, because if I have to take in any more societal trauma, if I have to experience that again, if I have to go through, like, I have to watch, especially for me, gender-based violence is something that's affected me because I've been harassed and assaulted. And so, like, if I have to, like, go through those triggers again, I will not be able to finish exams. I will not be able to, like, continue. This will, like, I have to cut like, people have to cut themselves off from issues emotionally sometimes, refuse to feel them and ingest them, because if they don't, they stop functioning.
Yeah. So I mean, I think, yeah, guys, it is an absolutely horrific situation out there, you know, like, and I mean, it's not even just out there, it's in here, it's everywhere. So I want to say thank you to everybody for sharing all of their personal experiences and their own opinions. And I mean, you know, I mean, we did kind of, we've dropped terms in terms of vibe, but it's our reality, you know. And I think it's so important, I think, to anybody who's watching or listening to know that, you know, everything that we go through together. So if you are upset because, you know, the people that are meant to be leading you aren't doing enough, remind yourselves that they're also human, you know. And also, I mean, from me to all the other chairs that are here, like, put yourself and your mental health and your priorities first, you know. So yeah, I mean, the next question, the last question that we actually had was, you know, why do you think it's important to celebrate Pride during this time? But I think we kind of have the answer, in the sense that there is so much negative out there that, you know, we want to try and stay like on the positive, you know, because I mean, you can find something wrong with absolutely everything, but one of the most beautiful things about the queer community is that when we have Pride, like, that is actually a protest, but we do it with love, and we do it with pizzazz, and we do it with glitter, and we do it with color, and all those things. Yeah, I mean, so I'd love for us to kind of, I don't want to detract from everything that's going on. I think we've given it that space, and there's so much going on. But I did want to end kind of on just like a little bit more of a positive note, if that's okay with everybody. First off, I wanted to do, like, it's like a fun little surprise thing. It's like, you didn't expect this, but what are you actually wearing underneath the camera? Yeah, so because we all know that day old thing of, like, you know, actually down underneath I look so professional, okay? And then yeah, so I'll start. I've got my favorite pajama pants on. I don't know if you can see them, but basically they bring a new meaning. Oh, can you see me? They bring a new meaning to booty shorts, because they're booby shorts, and I love it because it's they're all types of different boobs, and so it makes me very breast positive, because it doesn't matter if you've got saggy boobs or squonk boobs. Like, seriously, there's a couple that's like different size and they point different ways. There's a couple with like a single or a double mastectomy. They're great. So those are my gym jams that I'm got underneath here. Anybody else willing to share?
Okay, I am on my computer, so this is going to be a little complicated. Like, my room is a mess. And
Ooh.
I am wearing sweats, and I can't really show you, but slippers. Can you see the slippers? So yeah, I'm a mess. Oh, and I have
ice cream.
Ice cream.
Jealous.
I'm also on my laptop, so I can't like maneuver. I will
Stand up, Amu. Stand up.
I am wearing these bad boys.
Woohoo! Look at that fashion.
They are the most comfortable
Serving.
pants I own. They're like my granny pajamas. There is a matching shirt, and I definitely wear them together without fail. But you don't get to see that today, because I had to take a long time trying to make this look professional.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I have my heart-shaped socks. You know, I'm wearing a jean,
Yeah.
but I'm spreading the love.
Someone is wearing actual pants.
I know.
I didn't know.
Setzel's the most prepared out of all of us.
I've had like a couple lives, and I think I got dressed once, like meetings and live videos. So I'm wearing a really big, like, here's my arm.
Oh, it looks
It's
so
not
nice
even-
and comfortable.
It looks comfortable.
And then I'm really, I don't know, I have this blanket here with me now, because it's a little bit cold.
Yes.
And I'm
Oh,
just wearing sweats, like really boring grey sweats. they're not even my presentable pajamas, but like I'm comfortable. And you only see this much, so it's fine.
Great. Okay, thanks guys for participating in that. It's a fun thing to do. Yeah, I mean, I think that's everything that we have for today. So I mean, thank you everybody for participating in this conversation. If you guys each want to, you know, just if there's one thing you could tell, you know, the person that's not going to hear this, so I know it's a bit counterproductive, but if there's one thing you can basically send out to the queer community, just one thing you want to say to them, and then that's it.
Take up space and cement yourself. Zosie said that.
Real shit.
I think, yeah.
Not an easy one.
It's not an easy one.
Honestly, I'm just going to say take care of yourself, because there is so much going on. Just take care of yourself. Self-love.
I guess what I have to say, because like it feels really small, but it's been like really soothing when I've heard it from other people. And I'm just gonna say that we'll be okay. I don't know how, and I don't know when.
When,
yeah. Shit has always been able to work itself out. This time is no different. We'll be okay.
I want to say that your queerness is valid, and it's beautiful, and it's strong, and it's vibrant, and it's all these different things, and you are valid, and no one can take that away from you. It's something I took a long time to learn, but yeah, so you are valid, and you are loved, and your community appreciates you.
I think my thing would be also quite simple, but just to go easier on yourself. Like we were saying now, we all want to do the most. We all want to choose a label. We all want to fit in somewhere and find community and have a safe space and have our families accept us. But you need to just be easier on yourself and come to terms with yourself and have that first.
Okay, folks, that's some wisdom from your chairs. Okay, that was my best newscast voice. Okay, so to end this off, we're gonna all shout Happy Pride on the count of 3. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Happy Pride!
Happy Pride!
Okay, and scene. Well done, guys.